the women's liberation movement, who really are sort of pressing for equality for women and so on. You don't agree with that, really?
Equal with the man?
Yeah.
Well, it's against nature. A woman, you know, automatically looks up to man.
It's always interesting to look back at the past, at our past heroes, and hear them speak with conviction about family building and what a nuclear family should be and the roles of men and women, and even popular things like race relations, and how many of the things that people openly spoke with conviction about then would be cancel-worthy now, and vice versa. Many things that are celebrated now would have been canceled then. It's an interesting dichotomy to watch.
When you were last with us in great form, one of the things you said was you were going to cut out any profanity, which you've done. And one of the other things you said was it should have the right attitude to women and so on. And you just said just now that maybe women should do the dancing and so on. What do you think, I mean, what do you tell your wife? What do you believe is the right role for a woman in that?
Just I think the woman is, her role to me would be to, you know, take care of her husband. I mean, women are not warriors, you know. Women send the men off to war and waiting for them when they come in from work, you know, have dinner ready. And, I mean, food's got to be ready. I'm sure all of them husbands like to come home from work to a full-course meal, home-cooked food, you understand? And that's her job. Have the food ready, bring the children into the world, take care of them, change all the diapers. And that's their job. And to answer the phone and just be a woman, be a mother, you know.
As you can imagine, any sports star in today's age saying what Muhammad Ali said in his day would be immediately canceled. We know this. You can't say those kinds of things anymore. But one thing I found interesting is that regardless of what people say in public, in private, there are people that still believe in the old way. And you don't have to believe me. Watch the celebration of the Ursuline Academy of these young girls at this Catholic school celebrating being ladies.
We, the class of 2025, in grateful appreciation, turn to our parents and teachers and say thank you for all their love, sacrifice, and devotion throughout the years.
Curtsy.
We look to our classmates and express the joy of friendships we will always cherish.
Another one.
And finally, we face the statue of the Sacred Heart of Jesus and bid farewell to Ursuline Academy.
Another curtsy. It's interesting in our modern culture watching people respond to this celebratory, reserved feminism at a high school graduation, some seeing it as a form of brainwashing or oppression. What in the Handmaid's Tale is happening here? The most popular response on the post. But there were some other black women that were asking how inclusive the school was, and there were several women of color, quote unquote, black women, Latino women, if you have $20,000 a year to send your young girl here. But what I find most interesting is that there was a lot of celebratory comments underneath this video saying, essentially, this is what more people really want. Love and respect it. 1000% prefer it over inappropriate prom outfits and reckless stunts. This is what a 16, 17-year-old high school graduation should look like. Now, remember this video as you see the pushback that Muhammad Ali got for his views that mirror what you're seeing in this modern day Catholic high school girls' graduation.
Full course meal, home cooked food, you understand? And that's her job. Have the food ready, bring the children into the world, take care of them, change all the diapers. And that's their job. And to answer the phone and just be a woman, be a mother, you know.
Do you all agree with that, ladies? Do you agree with that?
Not the many of the younger ones that say no. They like to go out and party, have parties, and sit on the bars and be out with everybody. And they don't want to be settled yet. But a real woman should be in the house, not on the streets, you know, for everybody to look at and feel on and pat on and whistle at. And then a woman can pull a man down or make him, you know. If a man's got a strong woman, he's strong, you know. Like how would the president or any great world figure's wife look just commonly out every day, standing on the corner in a bar where anybody can walk in and see her drinking a beer or something, you know. Especially when a man is known in type world prestige, you never hardly see that women, mainly in African and Asian countries. Even when the men and women are having meetings, all the ladies go in one room and talk and the men go in another room. Because men who know nature, especially those with beautiful wives, don't even want them in eyesight of other men because they are men and they know how they look, so they don't want nobody else looking at theirs.
It's fascinating listening to conversations from 50, 60 years ago because this has cancel culture written all over it. There's no way he could say what he's saying here in the modern day, at least not in public. But what's interesting is there's one person I cannot help thinking about as he is speaking here. It's almost like he is predicting the future.
You know, I have to say, Brian, if I'm a single girl out there and I find out that Brian Chesky is single and I can like stay in his house, have you ever?
People think I'm being catty by saying this. It's like there were 10 years when I couldn't stand my husband.
And for those listening, looking, you know, look,
well,
Brian,
I come on podcasts. That's what I do.
Brian is handsome. He's funny. He's whip smart.
Okay, y'all, I'm sorry. Did the former First Lady of the United States just say that she's obsessed with another man's love life? Not Barack's, but somebody else's. Y'all, we are watching the public unraveling of a legacy, one podcast at a time.
Because men who know nature, especially those with beautiful wives, don't even want them in eyesight of other men because they are men and they know how they look, so they don't want nobody else looking at theirs. So they put them in the back room.
So you really believe the old slogan about a woman's place is in the home?
Yeah. A woman is the man's field which produces his nation. If he don't protect his field, he'll produce a bad nation. A nation is no greater than its females. And this is one problem black people have in America that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad is straightening them out on, our religious leader, is to teach them to respect and protect their women. And if they can, keep them off other men's jobs, keep them at home. Because many of our women have to go through a lot of things just to keep their jobs. I know this. See? I know what I'm talking about. I know millions of people. I travel from coast to coast every day. I talk to them and they tell me what all they go to, the secretaries and the models, what all they have to go through just to earn a living. And if they had real men, they wouldn't have to do this.
It's interesting hearing Muhammad Ali being extremely careful with his words some 60 years ago because he knew at the time there was a burgeoning women's liberation movement that did not want to hear these kinds of old school values. And if you look at what he's saying, even though by today's standards they do seem a bit backwards, you can understand the point he was trying to make.
The women's liberation movement, who really are sort of pressing for equality for women and so on. You don't agree with that, really?
Equal with the man?
Yeah.
Well, it's against nature. A woman, you know, automatically looks up to man. If I would say right now, if this theater caught on fire and we saw no outlets, it would be nature for them to look to us to find a way out before we look to them to get us out. And I mean, like, you never look, I mean, it don't look right to see a woman walking down the street this tall and a husband that tall. Women by nature look up to men in every way.
Well, we'll organise that experiment with a fire during this break, and we'll be right back with Muhammad Ali.
Before we see the aftermath of what many would say are outdated and cancel-worthy remarks some 60 years ago by Muhammad Ali, and the confrontation he has with a feminist who dismisses him by not calling him his name properly, let's look at what is celebrated today versus what would have gotten you canceled.
Firstly, can I get your names on tape before we start?
Yes, my name is Ife Dio.
My name is Dennis.
My name is George Mirage.
So, and you are?
We are the Harlem Gospel Travelers.
Hooray! So congratulations on your nomination.
Thank you so much.
How are you feeling about being here, you know, just in the very least?
It is absolutely surreal and amazing to be here, to be nominated, to make history as the first openly queer group in our category to be nominated. It's surreal. It's Black History Month and we making history.
I'm trying to imagine a conversation I would have with my grandfather, who was a preacher, who had an elementary school education, that a queer group is nominated for a Grammy for gospel music and is celebrated. Now, I'm not saying anything is right or wrong with it, All I'm saying is that at the same time this is happening, we're seeing some people that are well-moneyed send their young daughters to Catholic schools where they can learn to have traditional values and learn how to curtsy and be traditional ladies. In this modern environment, we are celebrating the former and we are looking down and chastising the latter. But that's not what's important. What's really important is, do people really mean what they're saying in public versus what they're doing in private? Because this is what people with money are doing in private with their kids.
Let's welcome to join us someone who can, has got more years experience of the stage behind us, maybe a few valuable lessons for Muhammad Ali as well. Let's welcome a immortal lady. Will you welcome, please, Miss Molly Picard. Welcome. Lovely to have you here. Lovely to have you here.
Well, I think the only reason I'm here today is because I can look up at Cashapp.
Yes.
I certainly am religiously in the wrong pew.
No, he said kosher food. He was just talking about it.
Yes.
Tell me, you heard what Muhammad was just saying about women looking up to men and so on, and women's place in the home and so on. Do you agree with him?
Absolutely not. I've been earning my own living as a woman and a child, a little girl, since I was 5 years old. And what would I have done? What would my family have done without me? And what would all the families in the world do without the women who can help their husbands earn a living? Not all men are as fortunate as you,
right.
Muhammad.
Well, what I like to say, this is, I'm sure that any man who is in his right mind would know that he's got a woman that he's got, nobody else. See? So this is, I'm talking on this standpoint. Everybody's got various opinions, but we do live in a society where many of the women have to get out and work to help the husband, because just one job ain't enough, and it takes so much to live. But by right, by nature, a woman should just be a woman,
But even by nature, in old times, didn't the women work in the fields with their men?
Slavery, yeah.
Not in slavery, no. In biblical times, they worked in the fields.
Well, I don't know too much about that old history, but I'm speaking mainly for myself.
Well, you go learn your history.
Right.
And then you talk about it. Okay.
Tell me, Molly, here is Muhammad, who's made a very successful debut on the stage.
I like to say something about him. He's real sneaky. I've been on the show a couple of times, and every time he's always had a guest that I didn't know was coming on, and he always had a little debate going. He likes to start trouble. He's a troublemaker.
By today's point of view, there are many that would hear the views of Muhammad Ali and say simply that he needs to be canceled immediately. You could even hear that in the conversation he was having some 65 some odd years ago, where the lady came out and accosted him and didn't even call him his name properly, and essentially told him to go do more homework, and that women have always been working and his views are just simply outdated. Now fast forward 65, 70 years, and in these two pictures, which is more likely to be cancel worthy or draw the ire of those that would call for cancellation? Would it be the three men that are LGBTQ going into the traditional religious singing category of black people in gospel and getting an invite? Or would it be the Catholic young ladies who are being called handmaidens' tales? What I find interesting about this dichotomy, not necessarily is it about the religion or what people are doing or people being canceled. I'm more curious about, do people have a duality or some kind of ulterior motive where in public they're saying that they are for all of these new ideals and, hey, let's celebrate gospel music by adding LGBTQ groups when our grandparents would not deal with that very well, while at the same time sending their daughters to be traditionally schooled at a Catholic school and make sure that they have traditional ideas so that in the future they have traditional families. I can only wonder how much of this duality is really out there. While First Lady Michelle Obama is on our podcast championing the freedoms of elder ladies dating freely and being with the gentleman that they choose to, or even alluding to the fact that if she were younger and unattached, that the man on her podcast would be someone that she would obviously make an attempt at having a relationship with, one can only question other people on her class level that sent their kids to Harvard or have the money to send their kids to a $20,000 a year private school. Are they really championing these same ideals in private with their kids? Or are they preparing their kids to have traditional families while in the public eye telling everyone that these traditional ideas are played out, misogynistic, and sexist? Because what we see with our eyes versus what we hear with our ears seems to be quite different when it comes to people wanting to protect their values. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment below. Catch you next video. Take care.